So I first started looking at skills of lawyers in particular, but I think, and I'm looking forward to hearing whether others think, that this applies across all professional services. I was hiring someone into my team and started looking at the kind of people that we were getting, particularly from private practice coming into the in-house legal environment, and saw a very heavily weighted focus on technical excellence and insufficient focus on behavioral or people skills. And that made it very difficult to hire someone that I felt confident would be able to hit the ground running when I brought them into the team. So I started socializing this idea with a number of my GC network, and it became clear that others faced very similar experiences when dealing with their advisors, that the technical excellence was almost a given, but it was a very transactional type of relationship. And within the profession at the moment, we see a lot of talk around strategic partnerships. And I think, quite frankly, it's a veneer rather than a reality. And once you scratch away at the surface, you recognize that the kind of skills and attributes that we've just been looking at are plainly not evident on a regular basis. And so we asked a number of GCs, general counsel. We went out to 18 leading general counsel and did interviews with them. And those interviews is what we ended up bringing together to produce actually what were 12 attributes, and 10 of which you've answered questions on. So those attributes are those that we asked a broad community of FTSE 250 GCs on. And so we eventually created a program around this, the O-shaped lawyer or O-shaped leader, if we're looking at wider profession. And there's more of that and the GC report available on our website. But what we did was took that into law firms and started saying to them, as clients, we are saying that the three elements that come out of that report are that technical advice is a given, that law firms who want to stand out not only therefore need to be great at doing that, we expect that, need to also be able to understand fundamentally what our business and industry sectors are about. And I think, again, that's quite commonly known. And the third one that was mentioned there is about saying that GCs were asking for their advisors to also demonstrate that they can create value for the business. And that's going a bit further than most of the law firms we'd worked with had anticipated. And not surprising why we see possibly the outlier of results is around this ability to create opportunities for their clients. And so what we see quite often, and was, I think, re-emphasized by the 18 or so GCs that we met, and many more we've spoken to, is that this idea of going into the business and creating value is very rare. What we do see a lot of is great technical expertise. And so this group that I started and is really starting to get traction in the legal profession was looking at why is that the case? And we focused quite heavily on what people might term soft skills. Frankly, they're the hardest ones to try and deliver against. But we saw there was a real lack of training and development around the formation of lawyers, and the focus from all the way through education to leadership at law firms, largely law firms, was a real focus on technical excellence and very little on what I would say is leadership development. So many people who reach leadership positions have never had any formal leadership development training. And so what we find, particularly in the legal profession, and really interested again to hear this is more broad, that as the technically best lawyers who bring in the most fees get promoted to the leadership positions, they then start to recruit and hire in their own image. And those that are successful continue to embody the kind of skills, the technical skills that are regarded with such high capital at professional services firms. But from a client perspective, what that means is we lose out on that very human relationship, that ability to create value through building trust and relationships between advisors and clients. And that's why I think as a client, this idea of a strategic partnership is great in essence, but there's a huge amount of work that needs to go in to truly develop what I think remains largely transactional, and I'm talking in very general terms, and not sufficiently in terms of a relationship where the partners, genuinely the partners of client and law firm, come together as one to deliver a great service to the end user. So to try and kind of conclude a little bit of what we're getting to here, As a client, I don't necessarily feel like I get that kind of service. And for lawyers to start talking about feeling is almost unheard of. And what we've created, I think, in our environment is what I read, and I think is a great summary of what I think will be a successful lawyer in the future when we talk about skills, is not just the smarts, the IQ, but the smarts and hearts, those who have got both the IQ and the EQ, which I think people are starting to recognize is just as valuable to great advisors to their clients as the IQ. And so what we've pushed very hard as our group in terms of this O-shaped lawyer group is trying to really transform legal education to bring in these skill sets very early on in development and formation of the professionals. So it almost becomes part of their DNA as they go through the system, that these competencies become part of their service delivery, and that the profession and our professions are truly regarded as service providers, not knowledge providers. And there's a distinct difference, I think, between the two. So I think looking at the whole system, when I look at it from a client perspective, I want to feel like that firm, that provider has got my back. And at the moment, I see great transactional support, I see fabulous technical support, but I don't feel like a valued customer. And that, I think, is what our program is about and what I'd be really interested to hear from others about.